Gemara. We are up to the Gemara, the Lamches. We're actually up to the Mishnah. So we're learning the council of Chazaka, 3 years, and we also learned. So it seems so far we had a machlekes from the first Mishnah of this page, whether it's 3 years and everything, and we had a Rishmol Rabbi Kiva said when it comes to a stay Elon, we look at seasons or machlekes, whether it's 18 months, 3 months of 1 year, 3 months of the last year, then 12 months in intervening, or is it 12? Is it 14 months, and so on. Now the Mishnah says that in fact not everyone agrees to the whole concept. The Mishnah says exactly we're talking now about chazaka, and how long does it take for a chazaka? And we'll see that not everyone agrees. You need 3 years. Shalosh arotzes lechazka lechazaka. Eretz Yisrael can be divided into 3 regions. You have Yehuda, you have Eivra Yarden, you have a Galil. And the Mefarshim Mishnayos want to know the order why Eivra Yarden is sandwiched between Yehuda and Galil. So Yehuda and Galil, which are bordering each other, then Eivra Yarden. So the other thing wants to say that Eivra Yarden touches both properties, Yehuda and Galil, so therefore it's right in between. But anyway, Hoya Yehuda, if somebody was in Yehuda, the Herzik Begalil. So the owner of the property was living in Yehuda, but his property was in Galil. Or Begalil, the Herzik Behuda. Or he lived in Galil, but his property was in Yehuda. Ain't a chazaka. It's not a chazaka. Why isn't it a chazaka? Because, as we'll soon see, these 2 regions, they were not, the different governments ran them, and they would not allow people just to cross the border. It was very difficult. So even if the person would have made a machah, the person who was squatting in the land, supposedly, would never know. So therefore, he wouldn't have known to protect his and because he knows he'd never know the machah, he should have retained his documents forevermore. There's no excuse. After 3 years, nobody protested. You would know if somebody protested that. But if you both live in the same area, Yehuda, even in 2 different cities, then a machah shalei b'fanav is a good machah. You don't have to be present right in front of the guy. Omer Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you don't need chazak for 3 years at all. You know why you need chazak for 3 years? If the Bava Basra is living not far away and he could have come over straight away and be meicher, he didn't, he forfeits the land. It could be a week, a day, a month. You know why you need 3 years? The Gemara's example of the further civilization was Spain. Also, because we know Eden lived in Spain, the first base of English. So if you live in Spain, maybe in those days Spain and Portugal was one country. So you went to the very end of the Mediterranean. You lived in Spain, the Yachzik Shana. So what happens is the person is having a chazar, he's there for a year. It takes time before people start realizing somebody's there. It might take a year. And then it takes a year to travel there, and people come along and say, by the way, we noticed in your property somebody else is residing there. And then the Yavai Lashon Acheres, and then you got to come there a year later. Within a year, you have up to a year to be protested. That's what 3 years comes in. So according to Yehuda, the whole part of 3 years is totally different. It's only to enable the person who lives in the remotest places in the world to make a machah. But if you live next door, you don't have 3 years. The moment you give them, the person's there, and you could have been meicher, you weren't. You already forfeited your rights. Number 1. And number 2, we see for Rabbi Yehuda here is you have to personally come from Spain to be meicher. In other words, you can't tell a few people and then chavrach Islay and chavrach. No. You got to come personally and protest. That's what Rabbi Yehuda is saying.
So far.
No, because that's how it works. You have to protest. Yeah, because you have to protest. Because machar only works. In other words, the only time the machzik will take you seriously is if the owner himself comes. If he just hears words, it's time talk. Because he believes that he owns the land. So therefore, idle talk, idle chatter. Let's think about it.
So Spain's 1 year, what, 3 years?
Each 1 year you're having a chazaka, people are starting to talk about it. 1 year for the people who are talking about it actually make their way to Spain and tell you what happened. That takes you a year to get back. It's a long time, it takes a year to travel, but that's the world. We actually had him with Hurdas before Lav Gimel. The Rome said, take a year to get to Rome, and Rome was even before. A little bit closer. Let's think about it. Micah Sover Tanakama. What is Tanakama? Ika Sover Macha Shalei Befanav Havi Macha. Does he hold that the owner, when he protests, doesn't have to personally go to the Machzik and be protesting? Then I feel you're going to which area to live in? And Ika Sover Chosh Befanav if he holds a macha shleif is not a good macha, then even in Yehud itself, two different cities, you're staying and you're sitting in Meicha doesn't help. You should travel and make your way to your property and be Meicha to the squatter. I feel Yehud. What's going on here? Amar Baba Mamul, Amar Ab, Olam Kasavar, he holds Macha Shalei Befon of Habi Macha. That he holds that a Macha Shalei Befon of is a Macha. That's why within Yehud itself, one area to another area, he doesn't have to go personally to the properties enough. He talks about it, tells people. Sorry? This is all Tanakh. It's enough that he tells people, and that's good enough. Our Mishnah there's a war going on between like a Cold War, even not a physical, a Cold War, and therefore you can't travel like in Russia in the good old days. You couldn't go into Russia or out of Russia. Very difficult. So why use Yehuda as an example? We're talking about the Shas war, not anywhere in the world, even in the same region. If between two cities there's a war, so why? The Gemara Kamash wants to teach you the Stam Yehuda v'Galil Kishas Chedem Dami. They were always as if they were in war, because there's two different governments that used to control Yehuda and Galil. And because there were two different governments, Yehuda and Galil, therefore it was always difficult to make your way from one place to another place. And therefore it's always Kishas Chedem Dami. And therefore you have to, your Macha there is not, wouldn't, you never hear, the other would never hear about it. So you always have to retain your share. The owner of the land in Galil, and you bought a property in Yehuda from somebody in Galil, you need to keep that shtar forevermore. Now, Taisus asks, why do we always say Macha Shalei B'Fanav? Why do we say Chazaka Shalei B'Fanav? Just like the Macha doesn't get back, neither does the Chazaka. So no, the guy in Galil wouldn't even know that the guy in Yehuda is making a Chazaka. So why go to the second step and always talk about, Macha Shalei B'Fanav, Shatchedim, doesn't work. Talk about a Chazaka Shalei B'Fanav, and there's a war going on, he would know about your Chazaka. And therefore, you better keep your star. So Taisus says there's a difference in Chazaka and Macha. Owners of land, when they're not around where their property is, continuously ask people for what's going on with my property. Is it still there? Is it demolished? Is the house still there? Is there stuff standing? And so on. You're always inquiring. But if you bought a property, you don't always go, and if you believe you genuinely bought the property, you don't go ask, no, did the owner come in and long and complain? You don't do that. So therefore, Taisus says, even B'Shas Chedem, the Chazaka part, that guy would have heard. It's the Macha part that you don't. It's only people voluntarily come along and they talk about it, but the person who is residing in the land is not making any specific efforts. And Taisus used the same story to explain why the Gemara in Git in the beginning we talk about a get, and we say that even when the no base of Migdash, we're talking about the Eidim. One of the reasons why you have to say before Nechtem is because the Eidim might die, and how is she ever going to prove that they get the veracity of the get? So there we talk about anywhere in Israel, you don't have to. It doesn't matter Yehuda, Galil, anything else. In the time base of Migdash, obviously everybody went to the base of Migdash, but even afterwards, people are always traveling to the major cities. What's going on here? Here we say that nobody, it's very difficult to travel. Machal doesn't pass around. So Taisus sort of again. By Gittin, she is what do you call? She is inquiring, do our husband give a get? And our husband give a get? So therefore, by Gittin, she'll know, even if it's that my husband gave me a get, or and so sending a get. But in Shenken over here, the person who's residing the property is not making inquiries. Okay. Also, you have to say it in front of two Eidim. Now, the big machlekes are showing if the two Eidim have to be together, or you can say one person once and another person another time. And the real question is, why do you need two Eidim at all? Is it a din that you need Eidus, and therefore the two Eidim will go and spread the word? Or is it mainly just to the word to get out? And then and the more people know, the more you're guaranteed you'll have. If more people will know, then why do you have to be together? Today chose that one person, they got another. But if it's a din like an Eidus, we need two Eidim to know that you are Moicha, and that's when the Mecha is a real Mecha, and then eventually you'll get out. Then you have to be together. Second one, weiter. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rav. Who's the name of Rav? If somebody fled and he owned property and he fled, and you make a chazaka, your chazaka doesn't count. Why doesn't your chazaka count? Your chazaka doesn't count is because the person who fled doesn't want people to know where he is. That's why he fled. As we'll still see why he fled. He doesn't want people to know where he is, so therefore he couldn't make a mecha. Says the Gemara. So right now we're understanding is that because Um, right now, we're understanding the pshat here is in Rav because you cannot make a mecha unless you personally go and make a mecha. That's how we understand right now. And because you cannot make a chazak, you cannot make a mecha unless you come, and he's not coming back. He fled. So therefore, you, the person who bought the land, and you know you bought it from this person, and you know the guy fled. So therefore, you have to watch the star all the time. Instead of you do, later Rav passed away, so I became the Talmud of Shmuel. Ki amrita kamei de Shmuel, and we said this before in front of Shmuel. Amali, he told me, what for? Why you have to be meicher in front of him? You can meicher anywhere he is, and then the word spreads around. Spreads. So why can't the bereich be meicher? The bereich can be meicher. Then why 3 years go by and he wasn't meicher? But the machzik owned the property even though he lost the star. But Rav, my commission. What's the Rav trying to say? According to this version of the Gemara, that macha shalei b'fon of macha. Rav is trying to say that a macha, if it's not in front of the person who's squatting, is not a val macha. How can you say that? Rav just said that a macha shalei b'fon of having macha. Rav just said right in the beginning of the Gemara here, Rav, that he holds a macha shalei b'fon of having macha. The same Rav said in the Pshat Nam Mishnah is that you can be in different parts of the country and you be meichlik from Bechor. How can Rav become long Berech? You can never be machzik in Berech. You have to always retain the star because he can't come back. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a problem. According to this version, Rav Taima the Tana did on Kamafarish. Previously, he was trying to explain the Tana Kama because we couldn't understand the Tana Kama why it should be different Yehuda Galilo within Yud itself. So he tells us that the Tana Kama holds that Macha Shalei b'fanav is a valid Macha, but Yehuda Galilo is like dirty boar. But V'leila Shalei, personally, he holds that Macha Shalei b'fanav is not a Macha. You have to do it in front of the person. Otherwise, he doesn't take it seriously. And rumors always abounding. People make up stories. He knows that he's the buyer, so therefore he doesn't take it seriously. Fred, the Gemara said now there's another version to this whole thing. Definitely Rav agrees that Macha Shalei b'fanav is a valid Macha. So what's going on there? According to this version, yes, you could be machzik in nichse bereh. Why? Because a Macha Shalei b'fanav is a valid Macha. And therefore, the guy should have been meicher wherever he was. And 3 years go by and nothing happened. So the person who bought the land doesn't have to retain the star anymore. He said to me, what's Rav's chiddush? Everyone knows that Bachar Shleifon have a Macha. The chilim chay b'fanav tzadich is Rav trying to tell us. Everyone knows that Bachar Shleifon, and Rav himself said so before. What's his chiddush? My Kamashran, what's it coming to tell you? That is all to teach you this particular concept. Well, Rav Chazal already told us that. So Gemara says, no, Rav is actually adding a chiddush which Shmuel doesn't agree with. And Kamashran, even if he was meicher in front of two. What happens if he was meicher in front of two people who are physically challenged and they're unable to make the trip all the way there? They're let's say they're amputees. They can't walk. They can't do anything. And he told them. And Rav says, it's still a good mecha. I don't care in front of who you're meicher. You don't need before of you meicher because they'll tell people and people will tell people. And Shmuel disagrees on that part. Shmuel holds if the people that you told are incapable, they don't even have the potential of physically going there. Not that they're probably not going to go. If they don't even have the capacity, it's as if you're saying you're not taking a mecha seriously. Because why would you tell the people who can't make their trip all the way there? So the Gemara, the Amarav on sorry. The Amarav on the Didim befashem in the Mashmol Micha b'fnei Shnei Adam Yemoiche from two people Shechayil Leim Meloi. If you're Meicha, Shmuel said that if you're Meicha in front of two people, that they themselves had the potential to go there, either they were heading that direction or they weren't even heading, but they could have gone there. Have a Mecha. Micha b'fnei Shnei Bnei Adam she'ein Yechayil Leim Meloi. People that are handicapped, that cannot make their way there, or they're traveling the other way of the world and not planning to ever go to that side of the world again, Allah have a Mecha. So what's Rab's for Taka? If they can never make a trip, that's Shmuel. So Shmuel argues with that. That's why Shmuel said the only thing Rav must be telling us the machosh before have machosh. Everyone knows that, but the Rav is actually telling us the chiddush, this new din, that even if the people that you were meich in front of are never capable of going to that city and relaying it to the person who's residing the property, doesn't matter. What's the spot of Rav? Chavroch chavri, because these people have friends, and the chavra of the chavra chavri, and these friends have their own friends. The world is a separation of 6. then it'll pass out anyway. Omar Rabba says, Rabba, Hilch's Allah is a machzikim and Berech. Allah is that you can't make a chazaka the chasim of a bereach. That's number one. Sounds like Rabba is saying, why can't you make a chazaka like we started off in the beginning of the Gemara? Because his mecha won't never be in front of you, and a mecha shaloi before of lo halacha. That's what it sounds like. But then he says, u'mecha shaloi before have mecha. Tarti, you're saying two dinim that seem to clash with each other. First, you say Nichse Berech is not a good chazaka, and then you tell me that Elochei the Svara is because Machosh Shalei before that you have to make protesting in front of the person who's there, who moved into your property, the intruder, and then you say, but you don't need Machosh in front of. So what's going on here? Like Kasha, depends why the person's Berech. Does he mind if word gets out where he's hiding? Can Berech Machos Mammon, he owes money to people. He pushes and the due dates are coming up, or they came up. He doesn't have the money, so he's not running away forever. He's running away because right now he's destitute. He has the money, and one day he'll make some money. He'll come back when he's able to pay. He'll come back to town. Right now he can't. So this person is not worried that my creditors know where I am. They can come chasing me because they don't have the money. What's the point? They're going to spend all this money to come chasing me. You don't try to bankrupt somebody who's already bankrupt. What's the point? You're going to spend money on lawyers and everything else, and you'll get for no gain. So he's not worried. So he will, and if he owns a property, he'll be moicha. The only thing is, if he owes money to people, then these people, and he has assets that we learned in Gemara, that he go to Bezdin, and Bezdin make all these declarations, and all that, and they'll eventually take it. So I'm not sure exactly this part here, or how that works. But anyway, unless they don't have evidence, but they're strong people and they couldn't go to court, but he takes milva peh and he owes them money, and you give him a hard time. Kan berech machas marodin. Here he's running away because he committed a murder. He committed a murder. They find out where he is. They will come after him. So he won't be meicha. He won't give a clue, because even though these agents might, he'll say, "Don't say where I am." People have loose lips. So he exactly. So if that's why he fled, then he will never be meicha. And then you bought it from him. You know that, so you should retain the star somewhere. Second, how exactly what do you say? This is what you say. Planya gazlanahu. You make a declaration. That person there is a ganef. You say his name. That's not a. Why is that a mecha? Because you spreading your word, you spreading around town a rumor that this person is a ganef. Why is he ganef? Maybe he broke into a bank. Maybe he stole your gold watch. You didn't mention a word about the property. So therefore, that's not called a mecha. He didn't know that he has to, maybe you're calling him a ganef, even though he bought a property for other reasons. So he didn't watch the shtar. He didn't think that the shtar would be a problem because, everyone sees me living in the house. Planya, but if he says, Planya gazlano, the nokad le la aroi begazlot, listen, and you spell it out. He's a ganef because he stole my property. And then, tomorrow I anticipate to go to a Bezdin, Havi macha, that's a macha, and you should have watched that shtar. So somebody's trying to say he actually has to say, I plan to take him to Bezdin. If he doesn't add that clause, I plan to take him to Bezdin, just saying he's a ganef in my property, the guy thinks, he changed his mind, doesn't really want to sell it to me, he's making all these rumors. But he's not taking me to a Bezdin, so he didn't take it seriously and didn't watch the stuff. So it's not a macha. He has to add the words, l'macher tavana lebedin. That's some Rishonim. And other Rishonim is interesting. So Rashi's Rebbe was Rabbi Yaakov ben Yochai. And the Rashbam says he heard in the name of Rabbi Yaakov ben Yochai. Who would have heard it from? Probably from his Zayda. It doesn't say that he heard from his Zayda. Just that he heard in the name of Yaakov ben Yochai. So I guess when it wasn't his Zayda's shot, his Zayda was repeating his Rebbe. He gave credit to his Rebbe. That you don't have to say, I'm taking you tomorrow to court. As long as he says why he's taking the land. But he has to say, my land. If he just said, he's a ganef, he stole property, he stole a house, then even though you're the one who sold him a house, he thinks he's talking about somebody else's house. Because you sold me the house. You know that. I paid you cash for this house. So therefore I didn't take you seriously. When do I take you seriously if he says, my house? This guy is a ganef, he stole my house. And that's sufficient grounds already that you should have taken care of this. Now the Gemara says further, he says, sorry. What happens? The guy is moichin in front of two agents, but he tells them, don't tell this the person in my house that I said that. Is that a You tell them you're moicha, but you tell them don't tell the person in the house. I'm not reading Hokam like family. You told them not to say to them. What kind of mecha is that? That's not a valid mecha because the person living in the house or the prop on the field doesn't know that you're moicha, so you didn't take care of the shtat. But Papa no. Lady Day assembly. What he meant was, I don't want you to be the ones to tell them. In other words, you heard from me and what they're. I don't mind if you tell other people because it's very uncomfortable that I gave you the message to say that to him when whatever it is, I just had a relation with him, he's my friend. You just tell people and let people, the word will get out there and no one knows where it came from. So it's all good. Amrulay, so that's a Papa argues and he says, no, it's still good mecha. The person who was living in the house should have kept the shtar somewhere. Amrulay, whatever the Adim said to him, loy amrin lay. We're not, they volunteered. If he had to first say, don't say, and they responded, we're not going to say, or they initiated, they said, we're not going to say anything. They said they're not going to say anything. So we're not going to say anything to them. So there's no mechayah. You, the balabas, should have made an effort to make a mechayah again somewhere. Now Papa says, even when they say themselves, even they volunteered it, what they meant was, we're not going to go tell it to them directly. We'll just tell people get around. And word will get out. What about the case number 3? Amalahu, he said to them, don't open your lips. Don't say anything to anybody. So interesting, the Gemara trusts people with secrets. He said, don't, the word shusa means, we had any Gemara sukkah there. The shusa of a little child is either from the father's house or from the mother's house. Miriam was Bilga. So he said, don't say a word. Don't utter a word. Lahavdul, Benjamin Franklin said, the best secrets between 3 people is if 2 of them are dead. So people don't keep secret, but the Gemara seems to trust them. I mean, this is big, powerful news that somebody stole a guy's house. They won't say a word. That takes a lot of, yet the Gemara trust them. They won't say a word to anybody. Even when by Fabrengi and they drank 4 cases, they're not going to say a word. If they volunteered and they said, Loy mafkina shusa. Now, when they volunteer, it's a step above. Well, I'll tell you, it depends if we learn that if the person said, I'm moichin from you, but don't say anything to anybody, and they said back, we're not going to say a word. So that strengthens the case, they're not going to say a word. Or they said, we're not going to say a word. If they said, we're not going to say a word, maybe it's not so strong because it was their idea. The guy who moichin never asked them not to say a word. So here we have, Papa. Papa said, they said we won't say a word, and they volunteered. When it's not negated to you, even though it's a secret, someone says, keep this a secret, please, but you don't understand. What's the big secret? It's not negated. It doesn't affect me one way or another. Sometimes you say things to people, you don't even realize what you're saying. So therefore, Rabbi says, you cannot trust them. So he's saying certain secrets, we can trust people when it'll affect you personally. You talk, you'll keep a secret. If it doesn't affect you personally, people don't know how to keep secrets. But again, within that is the machlekes. Are we talking about a case where they just volunteered, or we're talking about a case where they were asked by the balabas and they said and they said they won't, and still we have this the machlekes of Papa issue. Okay, we'll stop over here tomorrow night.